Oh yeah. What a song. What a great song. How fitting, you know, for the nobility. For the nobility that I display upon pop culture. But anyway, everybody, how's everybody doing out there tonight? I am Eric Zant, and you are in the A to Z program. And tonight, you have a really big treat for you. I have as a special guest tonight on the A to Z program a man who is very dear to me, very close to me. I consider him family. I consider him a brother. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Mr. Joel Dechert. Joel.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
All right, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, like we were talking backstage before, the weather's a little weird this year. It's not as warm as it's been, and it's been kind of rainy and shitty, so we've been dealing with that. But other than that, I guess life's going the way it goes.
Yeah.
But so what's going on down in the center of Pennsylvania, man? How's things going? But despite everything that's been going on in the world, how's everything down there as far as like COVID and restrictions and stuff?
They're starting to lift them slowly. Things are starting to open back up little by little.
Cool. Do you find that a lot of people, everybody's ready for this to reopen. Everybody's ready to go full bore. Do you find a lot of people getting frustrated, maybe like just going in places without their masks and being like, enough is enough? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of that. And when this all began, I kind of was asking myself, how long until,
yeah.
How long will the people deal with it?
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that.
As far as I know, up here in New York, they're saying like the 31st, we're going to be like 60 or 75% capacity. And then by July, I know New York City is going to open fully. And I believe upstate's going to open fully. They're going to, and it's all depending on like your vaccinations and all that stuff. But it's pretty cool because it shows kind of, well, I'll ask you, Joel, and not to put you on the spot, but like, how do you feel about the vaccine and what it's doing? Because I'm starting to see some positive things. Obviously our numbers are going down because everybody's being a little more aware. Everybody's getting vaccinated. Are you on board with that?
Well, I questioned it at first. They come up with this vaccine and then they whipped it up pretty, wondering, it's awful new. But
yeah,
a lot of people who've been getting it. I haven't really heard any real horror stories about it. Some people that I know have got it have had some reaction. But overall, it seems to me like a positive thing. I do know some people who refuse,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm not refusing. I mean, I just figured there's people in line ahead of me.
Right. You're going to wait till you feel it's right for you to do it. And
your workers, your nurses, your cops, and firefighters, and first responders. Make sure those people get taken care of.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that way too. I actually got offered it in February because I work in with the public. I work in retail, and right. I face everybody, 24/7 all the time. In fact, I was in the beginning. I had people. I mean, I've had people who've had COVID come in, not knowing they had it, then had it. I've delivered groceries to people with COVID, and they actually told us, they're like, you guys need to get this done now. So because we've had a lot of people out with it too, like half of our the people that worked for us, they mostly like maybe me and like 3 other people that haven't had it, So we were lucky, but I was lucky to get it. I got the Pfizer one, and I was lucky I didn't have any reaction to it. So it worked pretty good for me. But anyway, yeah, so that's what's that's the deal with that. So things are I guess you could say basically the same up here as it is down by you.
Pretty much.
We don't really live in we're not in like a high metro area. Mm-hmm. So it's a little easier. Do you find it's a little easier to get around and do things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I am east of Harrisburg, about 45 minutes west of Philadelphia, about an hour and a half. So I'm close to some cities, but not real close.
Not real close. That's cool. Well, Joel, I talked you up, and I didn't really talk you up. Everything I said was true. When I did the promo for the show, you are a wrestler, and we have wrestled together. Mm-hmm. You are a very, very well-knowledged and well-trained and extremely well-versed martial artist. And you're also, a lot of people, I don't think we mentioned this when you were on the Just Too Sweet show, you're also an accomplished power lifter.
Yeah, that was, well, age and injury kind of took the powerlifting away from me.
Well,
yeah, in my younger life, I was so.
Yeah, no, that's amazing because that was one of the things that first clicked with you and I, because as you knew, I was a gym rat. I like to keep in shape, and like when I saw you and Zoltan, like I remember my tryout. I remember you and Zoltan were over there working out, and you guys had like this freaking ridiculous amount of weight on the bar. You guys were bench pressing. I remember the first thing you did after I did a couple. I was doing the run around the turnbuckles or the post, doing the push-ups. Right. I remember I got done doing that, and I'm like dead. And you got up off the bench after bench pressing something like 400 and some pounds. You guys were making it look like it was like nothing. It was literally like I'm watching you guys do this, and it's like it's like you're throwing pillows off your chest. I'm like going, I'm in fucking big trouble. What am I doing here? Because I'm not a small person, but I'm not like a big guy. I'm what you call, I guess, what would you call me? Like a slender, muscular guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I was 235, pounds, and I'm in here. I'm in this gym. It was back when we were in Allentown, and I'm in this gym and with these monsters. I mean, of course, you had all the Samoans, had you guys, and I'm like going, I'm gonna die. Like these guys are gonna like tear my arm off and like barbecue it. But I couldn't have had a bunch of sweeter people. It was what a great experience, and that was our first thing. And I remember somebody said, "Hey, he kind of looks like a cross between Shawn Michaels and Triple H." And you got off the bench, and you're like, you looked at the person that said that, and you looked at me. You're like, "Well, that's not a bad thing." And I was like, "Wow, man!" I was like, "I'm gonna like this guy." Then I remember we just hit it off like that. I think we talked for like an hour, and then we just got to know each other through the years so well. But that was one of my fondest memories of you. Our first meeting there. We got some people already, Joel, tuning in. We got Sam. What's going on, Samo? Good to see you. And of course, Steph, my friend Steph, she says, well, nobody's as old as Eric. So, that goes without saying. And the boss popping in. Yo, boss, what's up? How we doing? Steve Faraci, you probably heard before when you were on before, Joel. Steve is the boss of Pop Culture. He is Pop Culture Pros. He is the one that founded the network, and he's the one that is responsible for me and all of us having our shows. He chose us to do this. He had us make up our shows, and he's responsible for it. And I'm putting him over, and he's throwing me under the goddamn bus. Steph's got a point. And so that's how it goes here. But Joel, before we get into shooting the shit and getting in deep here, what I did is for the top 10 tonight. Here we go. There's some love for you, Joel. Joel, we appreciate you coming back on the network. We do. We all do. Everybody, real quick, Joel. Everybody was looking forward to this because you really made an impact the last time you were on the wrestling show. We were kind of crunched for time and we were really jiving and rolling with our convos, and everybody. I mean, that was one of our best shows. I wanted to tell you that, and I had so much feedback after that, questions, points that you made, and everybody seriously really loved it. So it's like I said, you were anticipated coming back, and this is great. So I'm really happy that you're here. But and of course, as the running gag goes here, this show is going to be canceled before it's over. Of course, that's the boss is always. I get canceled every week, Joel. That's just how this goes. I get canceled every single week. But anyway, Joel, for the top 10 tonight, since you and I are mainly you, but you inspired me to lift heavier and go harder. You and I have had countless and hours and hours. I mean, of talks about the strongest men in history, strong men in general, guys who are strong. And I found a list of about the best list for me that I could find about the strongest men in history, the top 10 strongest men around. And these are obviously guys that have passed away, and some of them are still with us. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna go through this. We're gonna go 10-1, and I didn't fudge this and rework it like I usually do. I kind of left it because this doesn't really need to be in any typical order, because every single one of these guys have contributed, have done some outstanding and amazing lifts, and done some ridiculous feats of strength. And I know you're going to agree. But what we'll do is I'll go through from bottom to top, and we'll talk a little bit about what we know and how we feel about some of these guys. What do you think?
All right.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Sound good. Oh, hey, Timmy's here. Timmy's welcome back, Joel. Tim was the other co-host of the wrestling show you were on. He remembers. See, we're rolling now, buddy. So here we go. So this is everybody, and you know what? Let's make it official. Let's put the banner up. Here's AZ's top 10 list. So we're gonna go through the top 10 list right now. Now, everybody, this is the top 10 strongest men ever. Okay. So if you agree, if you disagree, let us know. Joel and I are gonna jive a little bit on this. So let's go. So number 10, Joel, we have Jeff Capes. Now, for those people that are unfamiliar with, let's say, strength sports, and if you are familiar, Jeff Capes is actually a very important figure in strength sports. I feel he's a gigantic British guy, known for throwing probably the cabers, and I think did he throw hammers too? Mm-hmm. He did. What's your impression of Jeff Capes, Joel, as a guy who actually, I never competed or did many of these lifts that these strongmen do, but you have. So tell me what your impression of Jeff Capes is real quick. Well, how do you feel about him?
He strikes me as a real gentleman.
Agreed.
Someone who was a really good representative of his sport.
Yeah.
And from what I know of him now, he gives a lot of his time to young people.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And do you feel, I mean, he's well deserved to be on the list of a top 10 strongest man, is he not?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I remember, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit. Do you remember the year? It was 87. They didn't have a world's strongest man, but they put that event together called Pure Strength in Scotland. Right. It was Kaz, Capes, and Sigmarsson. Mm-hmm. And of course, as everybody knows, John Paul ran away with it.
Right.
But Capes, I mean, you're talking like, well, let's expound a little bit on this, because we're going to get into Kazmaier, we're going to get into Sigmarsson, but Kate, and while we're talking about Capes, but do you think at that era, when this was going on, let's say from 1980 to 1990, were there three stronger men than these three?
No. I mean, it was pretty much all about those. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Kaz and Sigmarsson are legends now. They were making, as I recall, I was reading the bodybuilding magazines constantly back, and they were getting press in the bodybuilding magazines. I mean,
yeah,
they were really bringing strongman into the light,
Oh yeah. And they, they started that because strongmen are a little bit somber, a little bit more reserved of an athlete than say like a baseball player, football player. But like especially with Sigmarsson, which we'll get into, they kind of like they started getting their personalities started to show more. And do you think that had a little bit to do with because these three guys not only were super strong, but they really were like exuberant personalities. I mean, like they made you like watch and look, and it's like, oh my God, like it was amazing.
Yeah, you didn't. I mean, Don Reinhardt and those guys. They weren't screaming into the camera.
No, or Bruce Wilhelm, they just kind of lifted, walked away.
Yeah,
and Kazmaier would like have that look in his eyes and freak out, and of course everybody knows Sigmarsson was he was a class in his own.
Oh yeah.
But Capes, I always liked Capes because he was a great big guy. I mean, he was just a mountain of a man.
Yeah,
and
bear.
He did. And you just knew by looking at this guy's hands, his wrists. You always made a point of, of the joints on people, the real strong guys on their joints. Like you always told me, because I had smaller joints, my muscles appeared bigger because packing muscle on smaller joints gave the impression of bigger muscles. Not that I was small in any means, but I didn't have the body weight and I wasn't as big as say you were. You know what I mean? Like, although like they would say like, well, Eric's a little smaller than Joel. And in reality, you outweighed me by 80, 90 pounds, maybe 100 at some point, but because of so like say like a Hulk Hogan and a John Studd. I mean, Hogan was probably 280, 300 and Studd was probably 380. But Hogan appeared bigger because he had probably a little bit smaller joints and bigger and more and the muscle was on those joints appears to be bigger. You turned me on to that. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do remember having a conversation with you.
Yep, because and like I said, I'm not a small person. Like I said, I don't have super small joints, but I'm not a big man. I'm not like a bear. You know what I mean?
Right.
And where I'm segueing this is Capes just has these, like you can see in his elbows and his wrists. So he has these enormous joints, and it just looks like he could just crush things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's sports like pro wrestling when we were involved in and strongman. They let you know right away how big you're not.
Yeah. Yes.
Some of these guys.
I can remember wrestling you and Chris separate times, but like I'm in the ring with you guys, and like I said, I was a big strong kid, but like you guys were handling me like a 235 240 pound dude, and I'm taller. I was 6'3", so it was spread out a little more, but like when you guys would grab me, like I got the oh fuck. Like when you grab me, it's like, oh shit, it's like, okay, well, I guess there's nothing I'm going to do to them that's going to hurt them any more than whatever, because my God, it felt like what it felt like was like when you have like a vice and it like locks you in or something. It's like, that's what it felt like when you guys are grabbing. Cause I mean, it was like, that was real. I was like, well, I'm screwed now. Wherever they send me, I'm going, because I'm not going to resist. I can't, but it was a lot of fun. What you guys did is kind of make me stronger, made me aware more of how to use my muscles as opposed to just like trying to just bull everything. Like you really turned me on to how to use every bit of my muscles, and that's something I've always appreciated. But anyway, enough about me and all that bullshit. Let's go to number 9. Number 9 on here is Mark Henry. Now, Mark Henry's interesting because he's not just a pro wrestler. Mark Henry's a legit strongman. He believe he was the first Arnold Classic winner, right?
Was.
Now, what are your thoughts? Let's put the wrestling aside for Mark Henry. How do you feel about him as a strongman?
Mark is one of my all-time heroes, like one of my idols. We're about the same age. And when I
you are.
Yeah, when I was a teenager competing, I would read Powerlifting USA every month religiously, cover to cover.
Oh,
And
wow.
Mark was always listed in that magazine.
Was he really?
Yeah, and the numbers he was pushing around were just unreal. He was so big and so strong. It would have been my dream to have competed with him, even though I'd have got my ass beat. I don't care. It's been an honor just to be on the same platform. And he did everything a strength athlete could do in his time. He was an Olympic weightlifter. He was a power lifter. He was a champion strongman. Had a tremendous career in WWE. I mean, my God, what more do you want? The man's done it all and done it spectacular.
Yeah, and like you said, his credentials in strength sports is legit. Like there's no there's no disputing how powerful this man is. No. He is absolutely powerful.
He's phenomenal. I mean,
phenomenal.
I mean, Terry Todd, he got Terry Todd's attention.
Yeah.
One of the top in the world. I mean, right there. What does that tell you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and Mark is, like I said, he's a big old guy. He's probably 5'11", 6 feet, big, tall guy, but he is just built like a tank. I mean, if he had a turret on his back, he would look like a tank.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it's amazing.
His thickness is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And I've seen some of these lifts he does, and it's just like he just looks at it, and it's like he's like the weight or the object is almost scared that he's going to grab it. Yeah. I mean, he is that powerful.
I watched him lift before and think, my God, he must think the whole world's made of cardboard, man.
That's what it seems like, because he's just unbelievably strong. Yeah. And his claim now, we all know, real quick, we all know that a lot of these guys have used performance enhancing drugs. It's common in strength sports, it's common in bodybuilding, it's common in wrestling, and all sports, whatever. Mark has a claim that he has always been natural. Now, if anyone else were to, I don't want to say anyone else, but I would say if 98% of the strength athletes told me that, I would disagree. But when Mark says it, I have a tendency to think that he is just a raw boned, strong man.
Yeah.
Do you believe?
Yeah. I mean, my God, look at it. It looks like he was put on earth to lift heavy.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And I think his claims are true. I honestly think he's probably natural. And that's scary, because can you imagine what it would have been like had he, I hesitate to use dabble, but even did a cycle or two. I mean, he would have been, it would have been unbelievable how strong he would have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Truly gifted.
Absolutely gifted. I agree with that 100%. Mark Henry, and he's a very humble man, very humble, very down to earth, very wonderful guy to talk to. Have you ever had a chance to meet him or anything?
No. And you know what? He's one of there aren't many that I wish that I would have.
Yeah.
But he's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
It truly would have been an honor.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I still would love to meet him. I hope to someday. But moving on, Henry was number 9. Now, here we go, Joel. We're going to probably talk about this guy a lot, because he's probably my favorite strength athlete. I have his saying tattooed on my arm, and it's in Old Norse and Icelandic. And he's if you're into strength sports and you don't know who this man is, then you really aren't truly into strength sports. And that's John Paul Sigmarsson, who we talked about earlier. Now, I happen to say real quick, he's absolutely my favorite strength athlete, and I truly believe he is one of the strongest men of all time. Some of the lifts he did were ridiculous, and the stamina that he had doing. I mean, he was carrying ridiculous amounts of weight, or lifting them and running and doing all this. He was just he was an absolute freak. What do you think about John Paul?
Oh yeah, he was almost like what the Ultimate Warrior was to professional wrestling. I mean, he would come out there and he just had a charisma that drew you to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he would put himself in such a state of mind. I just so loved watching him.
Yeah.
You know,
it was so much fun. And, and you would think, probably like me, I'll ask you this, like when you saw this guy come out, he would come out and he would just be, and he was also, let's not forget, I believe he had a black belt in, was it judo?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I've never heard that. I don't doubt.
I believe he had a black belt in either judo or taekwondo, or it might have even been like just a basic form of karate. Right. But I know he had a significant training or perhaps a black belt. But when this guy came out, he exploded. He just, and like you said, if everybody was looking this way, they just turned and looked at him, and they weren't, his eyes weren't off of him until he was done, until he let you stop looking at him. Yeah. And he would do a ridiculous lift, like especially the deadlift. I mean, Joel, was he or was he not one of the greatest raw deadlifters of all time?
Oh, absolutely. No reason to be alive if you cannot do deadlift.
If you cannot do deadlift, that's one of the greatest things ever. And for people that don't know, John Paul during Pure Strength, what he did when he was, I think, on that ox cart and lifting, what was it like? Or no, it was just the modified bar they had. They kept adding weight to.
Right.
I think he was on 1,100 pounds, and he held it. And while he was holding it, he screamed that there's no reason to be alive if you can't deadlift. Now think about that. You're deadlifting and you're holding the weight, 1,100 pounds, Joel.
Yeah.
And you have time like it's nothing, like just like you're reading a menu at a restaurant, like, oh, there's no reason to be alive if you can't do this. Then he just drops it like it's nothing. I mean, he just kept going and going and going. It was unbelievable.
He had a charisma. Yeah.
He
another guy, but he was like the first. He was a showman.
Yeah.
He brought a showman's element to. He really made it a spectacle.
He really did. And that's not discounting, like we were saying, his lifts. I mean, his deadlifts were like legendary. They were like almost to the point of like ridiculous. But he did everything well. He did the log press well. He did the fingers well. Early on the fingal fingers, there weren't really many of them. They were still caber tossing a lot.
Yep.
What was it? Another one. When they grab the weight and they throw it over the bar. I mean, he made that look like it was like, you and I would be throwing like, 5 pounds over the thing. It was like whatever, how much it was, 100 pounds. I can't imagine like the ridiculous, not just the form, because he was a pure athlete too. He was a real good athlete. And that helped, I think. But he was just unbelievably strong. Like I said, he's my favorite. Like I said, I tattooed his saying, this is no hall for John Paul,
I would always look forward to their coverage of him in the muscle magazines.
Yeah. Now, did he bodybuilded too, right? In the off season?
Yeah, he always kept himself lean. That was another thing that I admired about him, was the shape that he kept himself in. He looked like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I could never keep myself lean like that. I always had the old tank on me.
I tell you what though, there was a time you were looking really like when you leaned down. Do you remember that? Like 99, 2000. You were. Mm-hmm. I think that was the closest we ever came in similar weight. I think you were down to like 240.
I was down to about 275.
Oh, it was 275. Okay. And I think I was 240. So we were real close in weight there. I was kind of proud of that. I'm like, I was like, if I keep going, man, I'm going to be bigger than Joel, which never would have happened. But John Paul, it was just such like, it was like a breath of fresh air too, to see like a guy like that in strength sports bring that, that element to it, because let's be honest, it needed a little bit of an excitement. It needed a little bit of a push.
Him and Kazmaier really did so much to advance the sport. They really did.
Does Kaz still? He still does it to this day, right? Like
Yeah,
Kaz is still,
still involved. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
Friendly little.
Joel.
He had a friendly little thing with Magnus for Magnuson just a little while back.
I was just gonna say that. Tell everybody about that. Tell everybody about that little thing.
It seemed to be a friendly little contest between the two of them, where they decided they were going to get in there and carry on a little bit, and it was really fun to watch two legends like that.
Mm-hmm. What did they do? They did the Hercules hold, right?
Yeah.
And did Vermagnuson best him in that particular one?
I don't even remember who won.
But it was just funny seeing those two older guys. I mean, and Jesus Christ, how freaking strong are they still?
Oh, I tell you what, Kaz is a mountain still. I mean,
yeah.
Great.
Go ahead.
They both look fantastic.
They do. Now, I got on YouTube a while back, and I was looking up Kaz videos and stuff. Joel, he can still roll a frying pan.
Yeah.
The 60-some-odd-year-old guy. Like, he can still do that.
Kaz, I got to meet Kaz. Geez. Back in the early 2000s.
Really?
Do you remember Brent? Big Brent?
I do remember Big Brent.
I took him with me. Kaz showed up down here at the local YMCA.
Really?
I was training there at the time, and they had bought some new equipment. And really nice stuff. And the guy who sold them the equipment, whoever he was, offered to have Kaz come in. He was some friend of his.
Okay.
And I don't think the people who ran the Y really understood who he was. But they said, well, sure. And I got wind that he was going to be there, and I really didn't believe it at first. So I called Brent. I said, hey, come up. We're going to go meet Kaz. Yeah, okay, sure we are. No. And sure enough, it was a Saturday morning. We showed up at the Y. There he was.
And Kazmaier was there.
Yeah, my jaw hit the floor.
Wow.
Now talked to us for like 45 minutes after his demonstration was over.
No shit.
Yeah, he rolled up a frying pan like a newspaper.
Yeah.
Wow. Breaking boards, stuff like that. He was curling the new curl machine. He was curling the whole stack with one arm. And his size. I mean, he was just a mountain of a man.
What was it ridiculous seeing how big he really was in real life? Like this human being shouldn't be like this kind of thing.
Oh, Brent.
Oh my God.
6'10" and the better part of 500 pounds at back then.
Yeah.
And he was just blown away by Kaz's size as much as I was.
Holy shit. That's right. Brent was a big dude.
Yeah, he was a mountain of a man himself,
Wow, I remember that. Nice fella too. He was a nice fella.
Yeah.
I like Brent. So yeah, that's John Paul. Okay, so Joel, a lot of people probably aren't as familiar with the next guy. We're going on to number, 10, 9, 8. We're on 7 now. What do you know about Vasil Verostuk?
Not much. I remember watching him compete,
mm-hmm.
but I can't say I remember a whole lot about him.
I don't either. And I don't even want to pretend I know what country he's from. I'm going to say Latvia because just by proxy, half of them are from Latvia and the other half are from Iceland.
Right. Yeah.
But I do remember him being very strong, and I'm not sure if he won one or not. I think he did win one.
He was always in that echelon of competitors. I remember that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was like a Mark Felix type. I mean, even if he didn't win, you knew he was there.
You knew he was there, and he was a top 5 guy. He was always a top 5 guy. Kind of like there's a French Canadian guy that was Hugo Girard. Yep. He was a really big, strong guy. But this Verostuk, like I said, like you just said, I remember seeing him. He always was competing.
That class of guys, that's where you really saw the size.
Yeah.
The sport was changing.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see the Franco Columbos anymore.
No.
And then all respect Franco, but
No, but you're talking like guys that like Wilhelm. Wilhelm was only, I think, 5'10",
Yeah.
6 feet, maybe.
Well,
Um,
he was a big fella, but not like the fellas.
not
I mean, you started seeing Kazmaier and now the real monsters are starting to show up.
Oh yeah, I mean you're talking like Samuelson, Magnus Samuelson, Phil Pfister, the guys like that were over 6'6",
Yeah,
and 340 pounds. I mean these guys just it was amazing.
I mean,
But yeah, the what?
Colm Wolf, my God, the shoulders.
Oh my God.
His shoulders were in two different time zones. I swear to God.
I mean, yeah, he could be. I mean, if he was standing in Luxembourg, he'd be in Luxembourg, Belgium, and Germany at the same time.
Yeah,
I mean, it's ridiculous how big that guy was.
A lot of these guys started needing their own zip codes.
It was crazy, and like I said with Veristic, I don't remember him much. I kind of do, but I kind of don't.
Mm-hmm.
But our next guy on the list, number 6, 10, 9, 8. 10, 9, 8, 7. I don't have them numbered. So, this is for comedic value. I go down through because I don't remember which one is which because apparently I can't count backwards. So 10, 9, 8, 7. So we're at 6 now. Okay. And this guy is probably regarded as he's probably, some people would say, too low on the list or too high, however you want to look at it. But Mariusz Pudzianowski.
Time. I mean, he was an absolute animal.
Oh my God, Joel!
What a beast!
Was he just a freak? I mean, this guy just
and he didn't look like an off-season bodybuilder. He looked like a bodybuilder.
Bodybuilder.
Was cut. I mean, actually cut, not lean. Cut.
No,
it was
cut.
And the freak strength that he had.
Could you believe that first one he won? I'm like, okay. Then he won another one.
Mm-hmm.
Then he won another one.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I think he got 5 altogether.
Yeah, and he's making it look easy. I mean, he just, it was almost a one-man show there for a couple of years. Yeah.
It was, and that one time that Pfister barely beat him out by 2 points. He beat him on the stones, but Pudzianowski was just unbelievable watching him pick up these 300-pound rocks and run with them. Yeah. Grab that wheelbarrow that weighed 700 pounds or pulling the plane. It's just like you just said, he made it look ridiculously easy.
Yeah. Yeah. He actually, in my mind, doesn't get the credit that he deserves.
I agree with that, Joel. I agree with that a lot because he, like you said, number one, he looked like a bodybuilder. I mean, he could have gone from there to Mr. Olympia, and placed in the top 3. I mean, he looked that good. He had a 6-pack, his quads, his delts, his biceps, everything on that man was chiseled.
Yeah. He just he was just a genetic wonder.
Oh my God! And then I think he even went on to fight after that, didn't he? He was.
Which I didn't follow his career so much in MMA. I followed the early days,
and
it seemed to get kind of too formulaic in a way.
Yeah,
and too many guys the same.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that kind of lost my interest.
Yeah.
All the respect in the world of those guys. They work damn hard at what they do.
100%.
If you're willing to get in a cage and, pretty much fight for your life, that's, okay. But, I didn't follow his MMA career real close, but my God, what an.
And it's from what I gather about the things I've read about him, he's like an Elvis in Poland. He's that popular in Poland.
I can imagine, yeah.
I have a lot of Polish friends up here. We call it the Polish invasion of 2005 because out of nowhere in Deposit, New York, there was probably 10 to 15 families with 5 or 6 people who bought homes, bought houses, bought property, and lived here year round. And I can remember trying to like identify with them because half of them couldn't speak English, and they're hard, like they're like 14, 16 hour a day working guys, drinking beer, but they're big, big, strong guys. The only thing I could relate with them, I'd say Mariusz Pudzianowski, and they'd just stop and be like, Mario, Super Mario. They start doing all the stuff that I can't pronounce or understand. And I was finally like, can you tell me something in English? He goes, oh, strongest man of all time. I'm like, well, I'm not going to disagree with you. But yeah, he resonated that to these, just the working class Polish guys. Like they knew, like he was it. Like Mariusz, that was it. It was kind of cool.
He was really on another level. He was, he was to strongman what, almost like Ali was to boxing.
I agree. He might be the greatest one. He very well could be.
He's most definitely one of the greatest ones. He's absolutely in that conversation.
If there's 3, like we'll just say 3 that you had to pick, he's 1 or 2.
Yeah. If there was ever a Mount Rushmore of strongmen,
yeah,
whoever put up there, Murray have to be up there.
100%. That's a good way of putting it, man. I agree with that. So Joel, we had some comments come in as we were shooting the shit. Brain Strauss, Takashi Toshiro did not know karate. I'm trying to remember what movie that was, Brain. I'm thinking Revenge of the Nerds, maybe. Okay, so that's what that was. Harley coming in to say hi. What was that, Joel?
Okay.
Did they put the jock strap over his head? I think that's what it is. Harley saying hello. Hi, Harley. And Tim again, giving the yo. And Stephanie, she says, don't forget about us original Polacks. So no, we're not disrespecting the original Polacks. That's, you guys, we know that's the Polish, Polska pride. I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend to try to pronounce anything in Polish because I can't.
The Warlord Polish, and he was my absolute. That's who I wanted to be when I got into pro wrestling.
The Warlord.
Yes.
Talk about him quick. How big was that man?
He said, I watched an interview with him lately. He said his biggest, he was like 345, 345. And he was lean.
Oh, lean.
When him and Barbarian were the powers of pain, Barb said he weighed 319, 320, and Warlord was like 340, 345.
My
phenomenal, man.
Oh, and the Warlord, like you said, was lean. He was muscular. Like he was big, but he was bigger than Dave. Was he not?
He was. That would have been pretty close. He was
comparable.
Noticeably bigger than Animal.
Oh yeah. 100%.
And bigger than the Barbarian.
Yeah. And Barb is a big dude.
Yeah. One of the guys told me one time Barbarian had the biggest arms he had ever seen on a man.
No shit.
Yeah. No, and that.
Wow. Now, I never got to meet Barb. Did you meet him before?
No. One of these wrestlers that I've met and wrestled, I never got to meet Barb.
Seems to be a very nice man in the interviews that I've seen.
Yeah.
But I like I said, I never got to meet him. He's Tongan, like Haku.
Yep.
Yeah. Who's another formidable guy, strong and tough.
Yeah.
But
probably legit most dangerous guys ever to step between the ropes. Well, not probably.
No,
in my opinion, definitely.
I share that opinion because there is absolute. I mean, we got trained by Samoans, so like by proxy, we're pretty tough guys because and I'm not trying to toot our horns, but like, how many guys did you and I both see come in and come out because they just couldn't handle it? Like that was voracious training, and like I said, when you get beat up, when you get hit by a Samoan, because everybody knows Samoans don't really feel pain. And it's like when they trained you, man, they trained you. Like I think they had fun with me. This blonde haired, stupid kid from up north. I was didn't have a tan. You know what I mean? It's like, my eyes were so blue. You know what I mean? It looked like I was crying all the time. And they must have had so much fun beating the living shit out of me. I would have liked to have fun beating me up. But
it was an awakening when I went. Because here I had guys who were easily my equal in size.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. And I weighed just under 400 pounds back then.
Okay, wow.
380, maybe 385. Yet they were nimble, they were fast,
mm-hmm.
and any of them could have at any time kicked me right in the head.
Oh God, it was ridiculous.
Their flexibility and their quickness, how nimble they were, unbelievable. They were all like that.
Every one of them, Joel.
Sam,
Yoko,
yeah.
Sam.
They all were. Lloyd,
Yeah. Lloyd. Oh, what a beautiful person Lloyd is. We got to give a shout out to Lloyd. What a beautiful guy.
I remember Lloyd kicking me. Lloyd planted his foot right in my chin, and next thing you know, I was through the ropes and onto the floor.
Oh my God. I can see Lloyd doing that too. But isn't he a wonderful guy though? Isn't he just a pleasure to be around?
He was one of those guys that, looking back, I was blessed to have been able to get in the ring with him. And all those guys, the small boy.
It was such an honor, and it was so wonderful.
Any of those boys do a good match with a broomstick.
Yeah, they could have a match with a crushed soda can, and it would still be. It was unbelievable how good they really were. Like, they were just at their craft at wrestling.
Yeah,
they are without a doubt on par with any worker you can name in the business. And
get those boys in the ring with anyone, and
it was. Go ahead.
You've been a great match.
Oh, 100%. And it was such a pleasure to be welcomed into that fold, and for them to agree to train me, you, whoever. It was an honor. It was an honor. Like, it was a real honor to be able to be trained, and like I said, be welcomed into that fold, because if we weren't tough enough, I mean toughness was a lot to do with it with them, because if you couldn't hack it, you weren't in there. And it showed a lot of what I had in me that I didn't know I had. So, and you feel the same way. It's like, wow, man, there's things I'm learning about myself that, I didn't know. And no, it was just a pleasure. It was just a real pleasure. Let's get back to the list here. We're on number 5. I think a deserved 5 if we had to really compile the real list. Eddie Hall. What's your thoughts on Eddie Hall?
Eddie Hall is my oldest son is a power lifter.
Okay.
And Eddie Hall's like his hero.
Oh.
Because they're about the same size.
Oh, shit.
Resembles Eddie Hall a great deal.
Is this Mason?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw your pictures of him a while back. My God, he's a monster.
Yeah, he's a big kid. He weighs about 350 right now.
Ooh.
He's like I was when I was young. He's so obsessed with numbers.
Okay.
How much he weighs, how much he can lift, how much, he's playing that numbers game.
Which is fun. It's fun, right? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's part of it, But Eddie Hall, yeah, Eddie's a strong dude. Eddie's done some phenomenal lifts.
And Eddie has that attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Which I admire, because I never had that kind of confidence.
I didn't either. Even wrestling, I didn't have it. But no, he's a fun guy. He's very competitive too, which is cool. Because he brings out a lot in his fellow competitors too.
Yeah. I enjoy watching that. It's like he dares them to do what he does.
Exactly. And 9 times out of 10, he usually comes out on top. This guy is freakishly strong. Like,
for as massive as he is, surprisingly nimble. He moves.
I agree.
Oh,
yeah.
I did see that in him, like you would in someone like Thor.
Oh yeah.
Like Shaw and Thor, they have that height,
Mm-hmm.
and they played basketball when they were younger and that kind of thing. Paul surprised me with his quickness.
Yeah. Now, did you ever see some of the videos like that show him before? He wasn't that big of a guy before.
No, he was a swimmer.
He worked for that. Like
he was a swimmer when he was a kid.
Really? I didn't know that.
Competitive swimmer. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, he always was muscular.
Yeah.
But the absurd size. I mean, my God, he put size on.
Oh, I mean, he's like a half gorilla. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, when he pulled that 1,100 pounds, my God, was he carrying mass? I know the rumor was he couldn't put his own shoes on, that he could. And I don't know if that's actual fact or just Facebook talk, but I don't know, man. I wouldn't doubt it.
No, I wouldn't either. He's that massive. He is that big.
Mm-hmm. 3, and he didn't even look it. He was carrying that much size. It made him look like shorter.
It did. He's 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah.
So he's a tall dude. He's a tall dude. But like you said, he's so big he doesn't look that tall.
And he was hanging out with Brian Shaw,
Oh yeah, Shaw and who's the other on that one history show?
Bob.
Robert. Yeah, Bob Oberst or whatever it is. Yeah. Yep. Oh, God, he's another giant. It's like, oh my God, where do these guys? Yeah. What crack in the earth did these guys crawl out of? It's like unbelievable. So Eddie's 5. Speaking of Thor, Joel, Thor is 4. He's ahead of Eddie Hall on this list. Can you believe that?
Yeah. Well, the rivalry there. And they tend to. I don't know if it's sports hype or if they legit don't care for one another very much, which it kind of bums me out because I really, really enjoy that particular crop of strongmen.
Me too. Me too. Do you now Thor? He's been in the acting. He was on that show.
He was on Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yeah, I always get in trouble because I never watched it, and I get told how good it is, and I put it down all the time, just in joking, of course. But there's a certain lady that likes Game of Thrones that I kind of I'm getting a smirk right now, even though she's not looking at me. But no, Thor is a big strong man. Now, Joel, did you see what's going on? I believe that they're training to fight. Are they going to have a boxing match?
Yeah, they're going to box each other.
Now, what do you think about that?
Nah, I'm not a fan.
Me either.
They're strong men.
They're strong men. No.
And I don't care to watch them knock each other around. I mean, they're two of my absolute favorites. I love both those guys, and I have no interest in watching them knock each other around, watching them try to hurt each other.
No.
Hopefully no one gets hurt.
I was going to say, do you feel there's a greater risk? They're putting themselves at a greater risk for injury than they normally would?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my God. My son boxed for 10 years, my oldest son. So I've seen what happens when heavyweight boxers knock each other around. Now
I never thought of it.
Guys who have phenomenal strength.
Yeah.
And
I
I don't care to watch them hit each other. I don't. I just hope it's over with and they're both safe and it's over.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, if your son has done it, and your son's a big, strong man, like so you and you seeing that firsthand. Mm-hmm. That I mean, if one of these guys connects with a good right or an uppercut, I mean that's going to do something. No matter how big you are, like that's going to be that's seriously damaging. Like,
I'm not a fan of them. And don't get me wrong, I love boxing as a sport. I'm a boxing fan.
Me too.
Well, that's my wrestling name was Iron Jake Molson.
Yeah.
The Iron moniker as an honor to Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that's right.
He was always my favorite boxer.
Me too.
I always loved Mike's first he was a heavyweight who moved like a lightweight. He was so fast. He was technical
Oh,
for such a big strong kid. And my God, he threw nuclear bombs.
do you feel? In my opinion, I'm a Tyson fan. He's my favorite boxer of all time. I actually think he's probably the greatest boxer of all time. I think he was pound for pound and skill level and just pure raw. I think he's the greatest. I really, really do.
It wasn't a matter of winning or losing with Mike. It was a matter of surviving.
100%.
100%. Man, he wasn't some guy who just went in there and recklessly swung heavy hands. He was technical. He knew how to fight. He knew how to box. I mean,
he did
about the sweet science.
Oh my God. And it's like it was almost like you knew when he turned that switch and it was over. Yeah. It was over. I mean, he literally could have called that match at any point. He was ready to do it.
Yeah. When Mike went to fight, you didn't go grab a sandwich, man.
Oh, no. It was usually 2 minutes and it was over,
Yeah. It was a beautiful thing to watch him. It really was.
It wasn't it? Wasn't it fascinating to watch him every match, And they, as fast as they were all different, it was amazing.
But yeah, when I talk about Hall and the Mountain and the fight they're going to have, it's not like I don't appreciate boxing. I love boxing. I just have no wish to see those two knock the shit out of each other.
No, I don't either. And we can just only hope that it goes okay if they go through with it, and I think they probably will.
Oh, I'm sure. There's got to be some real money there, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it.
100%. I mean, they're going to make a big, and it's probably going to get a big gate too. I mean, there's going to be people that want to watch this,
Yeah.
But let's move on to number 3, Joel, a man who has cropped up in this conversation 100 times, and probably that's not even enough for the man that he is, and that's Bill Kazmaier. As you said, probably done more for strength sports than anyone, and still active. You told that story earlier about meeting him and stuff, which is unbelievable. I would have loved to have done that, but Kaz was, and he'll tell you too, because he knows how strong he is. He knows what he can do, but he is just like. He's like a giant maple stump that grew arms and legs and just walks around and flips things over and picks it. He's just unbelievably, he's a phenomenal specimen of a human, let alone being able to, enable himself to do the lifts and feats of strength that he does. And first 3-time winner, right?
Yeah.
Is he the first 3-time winner? And he won so much so fast, they wouldn't allow him to compete. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. But I think his rivalry with Sigmund really propelled the sport forward.
I think so too. I agree with that. They almost have the Eddie Hall and Thor almost have like a reminiscent.
Yeah.
But at least Kaz and John Paul were very good friends and respected one another very well.
Never any dislike there, I don't think.
No. Do you detect dislike with Eddie Hall and Thor? I kind of do.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't want to admit it. I don't care for it, but yeah, I do. I don't think they're particularly fond of each other.
No, and it's too bad.
And I think Eddie Hall has that stubborn Englishman mentality. If you don't like it, I don't think he has a problem telling you how much you don't.
Exactly.
Exactly. He strikes me as, that would bother him in the least.
No, he doesn't give two shits. He's just going to tell you and walk away. And which is fine. That's cool if that's the way you want to be. But like you said, it puts me a little off to feel that these guys, because you don't want, it kind of takes away from the healthy competition from it and the sportsmanship. You know what I mean? It's like taking a jab isn't the greatest thing, but you know what? I guess that's what they're doing. Joel, this is interesting. The number 2 guy on this list is he might even be my second favorite strongman, because I've been following this guy for a while now. And even before, when I admired this guy for this feats of strength and how absolutely strong he was, I had no idea how ridiculously trained, strong, and committed he really is. And that's Zydrunas Savickas. What are your thoughts on Zydrunas? Where does he stack up?
He's one of the best.
Yeah,
one of the best.
Do you feel he's in a league with Kaz and all them? I think so.
I do. When you have that conversation, he has to be, he has to be in that conversation.
Would you put him? Okay. You know what, Joel? He's number 2 on this list of, and this list could be thrown around, but the 10 men in this list, I don't disagree. This is the 10 strongest men ever. I agree with that. But Zydrunas is number 2. We're going to go right to number 1. And you obviously know, after hearing all these guys, you probably yourself have an idea who number 1 is, and that's Brian Shaw.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have put Brian Shaw at number 1. I would have put him somewhere in the top 5 because he's absolutely phenomenally strong. He does a lot for the sport, as we've talked about guys like that, and he's a nice guy. But you know what, Joel? We got to know right now. I want to know right now, and everybody I think wants to know. Being on the topic that we're on of strongmen, you brought up earlier a Mount Rushmore of strongmen. I want to hear Joel Dechert's Mount Rushmore of strongmen. Go.
Pujanowski. Shaw.
Brian Shaw.
Because they were like the 2 4-time winners.
Yep. Well, Marius is 5, right? Yeah. So 5, and Shaw's a 4. Okay, so we got Shaw, Pujanowski.
You'd have to put either Kaz or John Paul up there.
So you know what? We're going to do, instead of doing a 4, let's do a 5.
All right.
Since it's fair. So do you want to put Kaz and Sigmarsson in there?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so we have Marius, we have Brian Shaw, we have Kaz, we have John Paul. Who is the fifth on the Mount Rushmore of strongmen? Who is it, Joel?
Either Wilhelm or Reinhardt.
Ooh.
You got to give something to the men who started it.
You have to. And you know what? If I were to pick out of Wilhelm or Reinhardt, I'm going to go with Bruce Wilhelm. Yeah. I'm going to put Bruce on there. What about you? Who you going to go, Reinhardt or Reinhardt?
Bruce. Yeah, Bruce.
Go with Bruce.
I mean, you have to give it to the men who they started it. You know what I mean? They started the path. They're the ones who and paving the road.
And this is back before there were you only had a Europe strongest man. You didn't even have a world strongest man. You had the regional strongmen. It was almost like wrestling back then because regionally you had these dudes that won these titles, but there wasn't really a world one, No. And, Wilhelm and Reinhardt were just flipping cars and throwing kegs. And it's just
they were still trying to define what the sport was.
Yeah. And it's
distance, bending steel bars,
that crazy shit. And it's after seeing these guys do that, I think what, you're saying, is what brought attention to my God, we need to really focus on this and get this into a real competition because this is serious shit. And you see a guy like Bruce Wilhelm flipping over a car or getting inside of it and picking it up and walking with it. Yeah. Or Joel, what else do they do? They pull airplanes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
what they were pulling. They were pulling boats at one time.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, these were the guys who were trying to define just what the sport was going to be.
And pushing themselves month after month, week after week on these ridiculous lifts. I mean, pushing to the limit of what a strength athlete or a strongman is. And it's like, how crazy. It was like the Wild West. It was just, they were just grabbing shit and either picking it up or throwing it.
You know, and you know, this guy's a football player, this guy's an Olympic weightlifter, this guy's a professional wrestler. I mean, Kenny Patera was in that first one.
Kenny Patera. How do we, you know what? He's got to get an honorable mention, Kenny Patera, because that guy, that's a real strong man right there.
He was. Yeah, he was. And there again, time has kind of forgotten away.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, Kenny was first got up 500 pounds over his head.
Mm-hmm.
He got into wrestling and he trained under Vern Gagne. He went into Vern's camp at like 340 pounds.
Oh,
you know, and I could only imagine the rigors. You know, it was Vern and Billy Robinson.
Oh my God.
I mean, talk about being stretched and beat up. You know, and then they'd run them, and they just those guys from was it Jim Brunzell?
Jim Brunzell. Who we forgetting? We're forgetting
Greg Gagne.
Greg Gagne. Ric Flair was there. Yeah, that's where he learned.
Yeah. You know, I mean, Flair said at one time he wanted to quit. Vern actually went to his house and drug him out, threw him in a car.
Oh my God, I never knew that.
Yeah, watch Rick's interview on the network. He said across the face. Can you imagine grabbing Flair and paintbrushing him?
Oh my God.
It's Rick.
But you know what? That's the breed of guys that were back then. I mean, these guys were fucking tough. Like Billy Robinson, he could tie you into a pretzel, man.
As much as I idolize the Warlord for his size and strength, Billy Robinson was a wrestling machine.
Ridiculous. Almost like those guys like Paul Bosch who could just stretch you into 10 million pieces, or who's another guy that was famous for, the real wrestler guys, the tough guy. I'm forgetting a big name here, Joel.
Old grinders.
Yeah. Like the Briscoes, like Jerry Briscoe. That guy could kick your ass in a matter of seconds, and have you Stu Hart. You know what I mean? The guys like that, like these guys were just tough. I
watched a match from, I want to say it was the early '90s. It was Mike Rotunda working for WCW. Oh, the old NWA. So
okay,
in the later '80s. Mike Rotunda wrestling this big 400-pound dude who was not cooperating. And this guy made 3 of Mike, and Mike just handled him.
Wow.
He just handled him. I mean, it wasn't a problem for him. And I mean, I knew Mike Rotunda could wrestle, but wow.
Watching that like made you think like, holy shit, like this guy's nobody to mess with. Like,
yeah, never thought of him as a dangerous man, but oh yeah, he after seeing that, yeah, he could stretch you.
Now, Mike is from my area. He's from Newark Valley, which is about 45 miles west of here. By highway, probably less than an hour. He actually wrestled guys because they're in our class, like our class of sports. So we would have sport like football, everything. He actually wrestled guys from my high school, but back then,
Oh, wow.
And he went to States with a couple of guys that I knew too, like older guys. Mm-hmm. And I guess he went to Syracuse, went on to have a collegiate career there. So but the seeds that were sowed for him were early in wrestling. I mean, he was just a phenomenal wrestler. Yeah. So that's funny. You notice that because that says what a real. I mean, this guy was a real grappler. He could really hurt you.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, he just this guy trying to handle him.
Mm-hmm.
And why you would do that to a name on national television, I'd had no idea.
No.
Yeah, Mike just shut him down in a hurry. Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what? I want to get on YouTube and find that. Like,
Yeah, the guy, what he was death row.
that's who it was?
Death row, yeah.
Death Row. Okay. Boy, how the fucking gimmicks back then that was it Jim Hurd? The Jim Hurd days, the shit that he was trying to do.
The ding dongs.
The ding dongs. They wanted to turn Flair into Spartacus.
Yep.
And all this stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
I love listening to Jim Cornette. I don't know. You a fan?
Oh yeah, I listen to Jim all the time.
Jimmy's great, and when he goes off about Jim Hurd, like there's an episode he did where it was a deep dive, and he buried that son of a bitch, which rightfully so.
Yeah,
but
you can't. I mean, at least in my experience, you can't have. You can't bring an outsider into that kind of a business. You just can't. It just doesn't work.
Yes.
Oh.
I don't know what business. I mean, you can run, like you said, you can run any business and be successful, but wrestling, the business end of it is about like this, and the quote unquote business is that. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Hurd, of course, what were they coming? Corporate Turner. They wanted to get somebody in there and all this stuff. I get it, but wrong guy. And think about all the talent that they lost to the WWF because of him. Yeah. I mean, Anderson, Blanchard, Flair, Wyndham, all these guys when they were riding high jumped at different times, but they were all leaving. Rick Rude, all these guys that would have potentially put the NWA not at an equal, but they would have been really competing hard. Mm-hmm. It would have been a different time. That's interesting, man. Joel, I got to tell you something quick. So Lauren and I were at the store earlier. You're not going to believe this. You're just not going to believe it. And it's so appropriate that I have you on here to tell you this and tell people this. So we're standing in line, and this guy keeps looking at me. And this is in Deposit, New York, my hometown, 1,200 people plus, however many cows. Uh-huh. And I'm standing there in line. We're waiting. This guy keeps looking at me. He goes, don't be offended by this. He goes, but I feel like I know you. And I was like, I don't know, maybe. He goes, I know you. He goes, you were a wrestler. And I'm like, I was, yeah. I said, I was an indie wrestler. I said, I didn't really. He goes, oh, no. He goes, I've been following indie wrestling since the 90s. He goes, I know I've seen you before. And he's like, what did you wrestle under? So I gave him a couple names. And the first one I gave him, he's like, I knew it. And I'm like, are you shitting me? He's like, yep, I've seen you before. I know I've seen you. I've seen you wrestle, and I've seen you on the internet. And I'm like, in my hometown, Joe. So, of course, Lauren, she's just sitting there she's like, oh, boy, here we go. And I'm like, what? She goes, how much did you pay him to say that? And I'm like, oh, my God. I said, but it was sweet because the guy was I was an indie, not popular, wrestling on less than regional circuits, but I got around a little bit in my 7 years. I've been here, there, and wherever, but he freaking remembered who I was. Can you imagine that, Joel? Me.
You don't ever get away from it, though.
I guess not. If he saw you and recognized you, there would be no disputing. I would believe 100 times more than me. But he remembered me. He goes, you know what he said to me? He goes, the eyes don't lie. I'm like, no shit. Mm-hmm. So he really remembered me. That was kind of cool. That was kind of nice. And of course, she gave me shit about it the whole ride home, but that just goes without saying. So Joel, I know that you're a very you're a modest man. And you're very reserved, but Joel, I want to know a little bit. We've talked here again at length at hours and hours, numerous times. You are very well skilled. You are very, very. I don't even know what word to put it as, but you are a very, very well trained and knowledged in the martial arts. I don't know how many degrees of Dan or black belt you have, but are you comfortable letting us into that world a little bit and telling us what you've trained in and what you have? Because I think it's phenomenal, the amount of credentials that you have in this, and not only that, but you're passionate about it. But fill us in a little bit about the martial arts side of Joel.
I trained in Northern style Kung Fu, Bagua Zhang, for a little over 20 years.
Holy shit.
I earned a 3rd degree in that.
Wow.
I trained in Hapkido that whole time. In the last several years, I've been training in Wing Chun, Southern Kung Fu, and American Kempo.
No shit. Wow.
But
that
it's
go ahead.
Much more of a mental exercise and physical. I mean,
yeah,
I certainly wouldn't want to fight with anyone.
Well, no, but you bring up something important that a lot of people don't understand about martial arts. It's more of taming the inside than it is the outside a lot of times, correct?
Yeah, my oldest son was really into it when he was young.
Mm-hmm.
Between the Power Rangers and Dragon Ball Z cartoons, he was pretty enamored with, the martial arts. And I started doing it with him just to spend time with him. And as he got older, he got away from it. Well, I really enjoyed doing it, so I kept doing it.
Dad kept with it.
Yeah, well, I formed some really close friendships with the people that I was training with, and it just kind of went from there. And it, especially after wrestling was over, it gave me this peace.
Mm-hmm.
You're restless when you don't do it no more.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's
absolutely I do. Absolutely I do.
It's lifted weights, but it wasn't enough. I felt like I should be doing. You're used to being so physical.
Yeah.
And then one day that's gone.
Yeah, not there anymore.
Yeah, and I needed to fill that. And it was a harmless enough hobby, so my wife never minded, kept me out.
Yeah.
Go run with friends, have fun.
Now the Wing Chun, I'm very interested in hearing about, because that style of martial arts, we've talked about this and joked about Ip Man, but on the real, that is such a divine martial art, not just in the physical forms and exercises of it, but honestly, from the ground up, that's like one of the more solid forms of martial art. Am I right? Am I saying this right? Am I putting this together right?
Yeah. Wing Chun is pretty unique. It's not a lot of big movements. I like it because everything is close.
Mm-hmm.
I always appreciated what my teachers always referred to as the shorthand.
Oh, interesting.
Things done at a shorter distance.
Okay.
Pretty much because I'm old and slow.
Oh yeah. I know the feeling. I'm very old and slow now.
But and like I said, and there's how do I say it? There's a real science to Wing Chun and to the other arts that I study too, that I just enjoy. I enjoy the mental side.
They speak to you almost like when you really envelop yourself into it, like you kind of wait for that inner voice, like I need to be here, and I feel good here. You know what I mean? Yeah. I understand that. So upon that, the martial arts and stuff like that, do you still get in the ring at all, or is that all over with now?
No, it's over.
That's that you don't want to. That's not happening. Okay.
What do you mean, wrestling?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, that's when was your last match or the last match that you had?
A couple of years back.
Okay.
I see 5, 6 years ago, maybe.
Okay. How was that?
It was all right. Chris wanted me to come back and do a few matches. And I wasn't really satisfied with the way it ended.
Okay.
And I wanted to come back and give it a better ending.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, I understand that.
Which unfortunately didn't happen. But it is what it is.
And you know what, Joel? You can look at it like this too. There may be a time down the road where you may not have to physically get in the ring, but there may be an involvement you can do to cap something off. That's always a possibility too.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
I got
you never.
that. I wasn't as hungry as I was when we were kids.
Mm.
And then I just felt like I was taking someone else's spot.
Right.
And I couldn't do that.
Right. You wanted to do the respectful thing and let these guys come up, give them their time. I understand that totally.
Kid out there that wants to be under those bright lights.
Mm-hmm.
And deserves that spot. So
yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Trouble, calling it a day.
Joel, I see you enjoying a beverage there. What are we drinking tonight?
Cold water.
Oh, we're drinking cold water. Here I am thinking you got this IPA stout something, and you're drinking water.
Cold water in my Viking cup.
In the Viking, hey, that's a cool cup. I like that. But real quick, Viking lore is something you and I have always been interested in. Are you still a fan of Norse folklore?
Oh yeah, love it.
Cool. I pick on my kids because they're getting older now, and one's getting pretty big. But he's like my solemn one. He's like very gentle, and he's very, very soft spoken, and he wouldn't hurt a flea. But he's 13 years old. He's like up to here on me. Mm-hmm. And then I got my younger one who's a runt, and you couldn't contain him if you locked him in a steel container and put him inside of a truck and then put that inside of a mountain. I mean, this kid is like dynamite. He would just blow it up. It's so fun, but they both have one has like the reddish hair and the blue eyes, and the other one has the blonde and the blue eyes, and they're kind of built similar to what I turned into when I was younger. I can see it, because they got the makings of muscles and stuff. But I pick on them. I call them like little Norsemen because they're like it's funny to see them like that. And but like I said, the older one is so gentle. Like he doesn't even he doesn't he won't even kill a fly.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one would get in a bulldozer and bulldoze a house over. He didn't care. But I call him my little Norseman. It's kind of funny. And I tell them they ask me once in a while about wrestling and stuff. And, they've heard stories about you. And I showed them some of the show that you did with us on the wrestling show. They thought it was great. Like, wow. He's like, is that guy a real Viking? And I'm like, yeah, he is. I said, he's from the 1200s. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, so like for a minute there, they're like, is Dad telling the truth? Is he? But they were enamored by you, man. They were looking at you. They're like, oh, this big guy with a big beard, and but he's so cool. So I just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was great. But real quick, Joel, what's going on here in the future here? What do you as things open up, and everybody's been kind of sitting home, thinking about what they want to do. As things get going and we start getting wider and wider, what's one thing that you're looking forward to doing that you haven't been able to do in the past year?
Well, when the COVID hit, it shut my Kempo school down.
Oh no!
And I'm pretty tight with my instructor, and his wife's a nurse. His wife's in the medical field.
Okay.
And they've been very standoffish of being around people because pretty much what she does for a living. She works with a lot of elderly people. And I look forward to him and I getting back together and doing some real again. I train in my house every day. I have a gym here and in my basement. But I look forward to, you know, actually training with people.
having something live to toss around. Yeah.
You know,
Yep. Cool.
at home by yourself is fine, but
Yeah. Now, do you like to travel at all?
not really.
Not really.
We have a cabin. Her family has a cabin 3 hours north of here, and I like to go up there, but that's about it.
Oh, cool. That's fun to get away a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're still down by Jonestown, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. I like that little town. I remember being there with you when I used to come down to visit. I like that little place. That was a good spot. So, like, do you guys camp and stuff, or is that just you just go up and visit? And
Yeah, we go up there and spend long weekends.
that's fun. That's fun. Do you ever get just you two, just have a weekend getaway, just yourselves? And
No.
no.
No, it's us and her family, bunch of dogs and a bunch of kids, and
That's still fun too, though. You know,
it's a good time. It really is.
yeah.
We're real secluded. We're 7 miles off the nearest blacktop. There's no phone reception. There's no electric.
Oh, off the grid. That's good shit.
So yeah, if you want to get lost, that's the place to go.
That's the place to go. What's the general area of that if you're up north from you?
Cinemahoning area.
Oh, the Mahoning. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Joel, real quick, what's one thing you do want to do that you haven't done yet? And it could be anything. Go anywhere, see something.
I'd like to do a festival. I'd like to. One of the things that I really like is heavy music. In particular, neoclassical metal.
Right.
Or I guess they call it symphonic metal nowadays.
Yeah, they're putting labels on it there, but
Right.
yeah. What are there any particular bands that you like seeing or you like listening to, I should say?
Oh, geez, there's a bunch. I always liked Yngwie Malmsteen's music.
Ooh, Yngwie.
Yeah, Nightwish, Epica, Dark Moor is another one that I like. Elven King is another one.
Wow.
If I could travel, I'd love to go to Europe somewhere and see a festival like Walking or Metal Days.
Wow.
That would really be something to see.
Boy, wouldn't a walk-in open air be like? How great would that be to visit that and see that?
Imagine, seeing one of your favorite bands with 80,000 other metalheads.
being among people, your people, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah,
like all like-minded, all cool. Not hanging around all the American douchebags that are around. It's just it'd be great. It would be great.
I've been lucky enough to see I saw Diamond Head twice, both in small venues.
Wow, Diamond Head.
Yeah, Saxon, Raven, all in small venues, and that's been great because you get close to the band.
Mm-hmm.
Met the Diamond Head guys, met the Raven guys, and that was with. But I'd like to experience it in a big setting.
Yeah, like a big, huge, like a thing.
Yeah,
that's cool, man. I hope you get to do that. I really do. I really do, man. Joel, we're getting to the top of the hour here. Is there anything you'd like to say to anybody or have any last words, any last points of wisdom, anything you'd like to give everybody out or say yourself? The floor is yours. You tell us what's on your mind.
Just, everyone be safe, and I hope this is over soon and the world opens back up and,
give everybody some normalcy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially for the kids, man. Especially for the kids. They've had enough,
Political situation we find ourselves in. I'm ready for that to end too.
Boy, so am I. It's just politics on either side have just gotten over the top ridiculous. It's awful.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really is.
That to end anytime now.
Yeah, I agree. I really do agree with that. But Joel, listen, I want to thank you for coming on my show this time on the A2Z program, and as all the love you've been getting from everybody and from all the messages I've been getting, I really appreciate you being on. This has been a fantastic show tonight, man. I really, really am so glad you decided to come join us. And you have to come back and join us again. Promise me you will.
Definitely. Anytime.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, for Joel Dechert, who I extremely am thankful for joining us tonight, my name is Eric Zant, and you have joined us for the A to Z program, and we will be back next week on regular time, Monday night at 7:30. So please don't miss it. Good night, everybody.